In modern Republican politics, there is exactly one currency that guarantees political survival: absolute, unwavering allegiance to Donald Trump. You defend the leader, and the leader defends you. 4 specific members of Congress staked their entire careers on this exact bargain. They branded themselves as the ultimate loyalists, aggressively defending the top of the ticket at every opportunity. Representative Nancy Mace was an original backer. She officially joined the Trump campaign back in 2015 and worked across 7 different states to secure his initial election. Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene constructed their entire public personas around being his fiercest foot soldiers. They wore the merchandise, aggressively attacked his political rivals, and functioned as his primary defenders in committee hearings. By the accepted rules of the party, these politicians had maxed out their loyalty scores. That devotion was supposed to function as a permanent shield, making them entirely untouchable within their own ranks. Then, the shield vanished. Out of nowhere, the party leader formally endorsed a lesser-known Republican primary challenger to unseat Nancy Mace, publicly snubbing one of his longest-serving allies. Lauren Boebert found herself on the receiving end of highly public insults. The man she spent years defending began calling her weak-minded and openly mocked her as having a low IQ. Marjorie Taylor Greene experienced the exact same rejection. Her biggest political ally publicly labeled her a traitor, effectively making her an outcast among her peers. And Representative Thomas Massie, a politician who voted with the Republican Party over 90% of the time, was aggressively targeted by Trump until he subsequently lost his primary challenge and his seat. In a movement where loyalty usually forgives almost any transgression, these 4 names represent a complete break in protocol. We are looking for the specific shared action that cost these 4 loyalists their careers. The explanation isn't in their public statements. It is found in the specific legislation they supported on the floor of the U.S. Capitol. Their collective records include hundreds of votes, but only one significant overlap exists: the Epstein Files Transparency Act. If a discharge petition gathers enough signatures, it allows lawmakers to bypass leadership and force a vote to release the hidden documents. Thomas Massie was the lead co-sponsor of this effort, physically holding up the evidence during hearings and demanding full accountability. Here is the paradox. Releasing the Epstein Files was a major, highly publicized campaign promise made by Donald Trump and his surrogates. Yet, these 4 lawmakers were politically dismantled for attempting to execute the exact platform their own party promised the voters. The response from the political establishment was severe. Lauren Boebert was quite literally summoned to the White House Situation Room, the highly classified bunker used to coordinate national security operations, simply to pressure her into removing her signature from the petition. When she refused to comply, the retaliation extended to her constituents. The president vetoed a completely unrelated bill that would have brought vital water resources to a large portion of Colorado. Marjorie Taylor Greene faced a different kind of backlash. After she signed the petition to stand with the teenage victims, she and her children received death threats, not from opponents, but from within her own camp. When Greene appealed directly to Trump to explain the danger her family was in, she was given 0 sympathy. Instead, she was told the threats were her own fault, because pushing for the release of the Epstein Files was hurting his friends. Meanwhile, political surrogates and legacy media outlets worked in unison to scrub the narrative. When Thomas Massie was ousted, the entire establishment quietly agreed to pretend his removal was simply about his voting record, aggressively dodging any mention of his leadership on the Epstein documents. Pulling lawmakers into the Situation Room, withholding state resources, and ignoring credible death threats points to a specific objective: protecting the Epstein Files at any cost. To understand why the establishment reacted with such disproportionate force, we have to look past the political pawns and look at the actual target of those suppressed files. The populist rhetoric about exposing predators was highly effective on the campaign trail. But that entire narrative was immediately abandoned the moment the Transparency Act threatened to implicate the party leader himself, whose name is reportedly littered throughout the documents. It also threatened the massive financial network propping up the political machine. That includes powerful billionaire donors like Howard Lutnick, who has been directly tied to the network. Then there's John Paulson, another billionaire implicated in the files, who has been actively hosting major fundraisers, leveraging his immense financial influence to maintain political protection. The stated goal of the movement was to drain the swamp. But the moment the levers of government were secured, that power was weaponized to actively shield the exact predators the public was promised would be exposed. What we are looking at is the reality of the Epstein class. This is a tier of ultra-wealthy elites who don't actually care about being Republicans or Democrats. They treat political allegiance as a business expense, purchasing their protection from whatever side happens to hold power. Because they finance the political machine, they are granted a completely different set of rules. They bypass standard oversight, they operate with impunity, and they remain entirely untouchable by the legal consequences that apply to ordinary citizens. And the political purge worked. The Transparency Act was crushed, the documents remained buried, and the loyalists who stepped out of line were ruined. It sent a permanent, highly visible message to the rest of Washington. Exposing elite corruption is the one unforgivable sin.